Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Women and Business. I was laughing as the screen went live because I am constitutionally incapable of not dancing to the theme music to any of the title bumpers, apparently, for stuff that I do. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a little rev up kind of thing for me that I'm like, okay, we're going live, let's dance. I don't know. But anyway, that's just some weird little quirk that I have apparently. So it is Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022 at 3 o'clock p.m., which means it is time for Women in Business. And I am so excited today because Perrin, Savoy is here. And we are going to have a great discussion about a number of things. And I'm not going to waste much time talking to you by myself because she's way more interesting than I am. So I'm going to bring her in here. Hi, Quianne. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Christine. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Ah, I'm so excited that you're here. And I should say that Quianne is off-site. She is at a conference, so she's working with the internet where she is. So if we have any little delays or anything, that's just kind of part and parcel of the internet. So, and also I should say StreamYard has been a little touchy today, so we'll see how this all goes. But I'm confident that we're going to have a great time. And
Yes.
the first thing I want to ask you, Quianne, is would you just tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do, please?
Sure. Okay. So I won't take the long route. I'll take the medium
Okay.
route. So my name is Perrin Savoy. I am a promotional products distributor. That is the
Mm-hmm.
name that most people would maybe recognize. So I'm a product development expert. That's the name I gave to myself.
I
We
like
help
that.
companies. Thank you so much. We help companies to create beautiful branded merchandise, fresh and meaningful merchandise that would help tell the story of their brand. And I have a storied past of how I even got into marketing. Started off as an actual music artist and absolutely loved the marketing aspect of the music industry and
Mm-hmm.
just built on that and built on that and built on that until I got here to this place, which again, so many different layers to the story, but that's the long and the short of it. And the name of my company is More and More Merch. We are a Black owned, woman owned, family owned business. I have two partners, and they are actually my first cousins. Our
Mm-hmm.
moms are all sisters, so three moms, three sisters, and three first
Oh,
cousins.
wow.
That's who
So
we
we
are.
could have had a whole discussion on what it's like to work with family, which maybe I'll put a pin in that and we can talk
Yes.
about that one later. But I have to say, and this is the URL for Kiani's company's website if you want to go check it out, even though they are doing a revamp right now. So there isn't a whole lot there, but go take a look.
Yes.
But the one of the reasons among many that I wanted to have you on this show is because I heard this um, promo kitchen podcast that you did on racism. And this is the link to this on SoundCloud, or you can just go look up Promo Kitchen podcasts and scroll through and find it. It's a wonderful podcast. Can't recommend it enough. But why, after listening to this and because of some of my own experiences, I wanted to touch on this subject for a little bit. And I know this is kind of an uncomfortable subject for some people to talk about, but I think it's important that we do. So I want to start with a question that I feel like people don't get asked enough sometimes, which is it annoying or tiring sometimes to feel like you're the person that's always getting asked these questions? And I realize that, I'm starting off this, let's talk about, race with this. Do you really hate it when people ask you to talk about race? But I have that feeling sometimes.
Got it. So I will answer your question. Absolutely, most of the time. I would say that I definitely welcome it, especially if we are new to the subject. We've never talked about it before. We're building a rapport, we're building a relationship. Depending on the setting, if it's a one-on-one setting, always welcome.
Mhm.
And especially if you're just literally being open and honest and coming from a really good place. Of course,
Whoops.
not coming from a really good place, but for the most part, it's never going to be an issue. It's never going to be a problem. On the other hand, I do sometimes feel like there can be some tokenism, where it's like, hey, let's just pull in this one African American person so that we
Hmm.
have checked that off the box and checked that off the list. And in instances like that, it just does not feel genuine. Or in addition
Right.
to that, I'll say, or an extension of that is when there's just conversation and we're really not getting anywhere. We're not kind of, I will say, not even changing the way that we think, but just questioning or challenging the way that we
Hmm.
think, or doing things differently, or maybe adding in some new things to our everyday routine or to our monthly routine or to just the way that
Hmm.
we're living life. If it's just kind of the same conversation, then why are we still having this conversation? But at the same time, for the most part, it's never something that I'm going to shy away from or that bothers me or anything along those lines. So
That's good. Well, okay. So now that I feel better,
yeah,
I want to ask you about something that I found really interesting, which was I told you before we went live that I had Kathy Chang on the show about,
yeah,
I don't know, several months ago, and we had a pre-show call to kind of get to know each other a little bit. She had asked to do that. And I
okay,
made a joke, or what I thought was a joke at the time. And I said, "Oh, I want to talk about, racial and diversity and all that stuff." And I realized that there's things I don't know about this because I'm the whitest white girl in America. Ha ha. Which, seriously, look at me. I totally am. But after we got off the call, I thought, oh, what if she thought that was really like not funny, or what if she thought I was really insensitive or whatever. And we had like a week and a half between the show
got it.
and the call.
Yeah,
And I spent the whole time just being all like, oh God, what if she hates me now? What if I'm awful? And when I asked her about it, she said, well, why didn't you just like email me or text me and
yeah,
say, hey, I said this thing. But I don't, I was so worried about being offensive by asking,
yeah.
I
Got it.
guess,
Okay, yes.
and so I guess my question would be, how do you navigate that, or is there a preferred way to do that?
I think that I think it goes both ways because conversely, I could do the same thing to you. And
Sure.
I think that, or we could have the same kind of a situation. And so I guess, like she said, kind of just, it's okay. People can feel when someone is being genuine, when someone is
Right.
trying to make a dig, or even when someone makes a dig and they just really didn't know that that was one.
Right.
And so I always think that that's like honesty is the best policy. My dad, who is one of my favorite people, this is actually his conference that I'm at right now. But
Oh,
one of my favorite
cool.
people always just instilled in me, even when it's someone, 30 years my senior. I used to, be working with people that were a lot older than me, and I may be
Hmm.
in a position of power. And he taught me early and often that, just honesty is going to be the best policy. Um, Decorum is the best policy, and
Hmm.
just kind of speaking from your heart, you really cannot go wrong. I really don't think that you can, unless someone is just bent on not,
Yeah,
being understanding or just
if they're kind of focused on being offended, they're going to be offended no matter what you
period.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On either side of the coin,
Right.
black, white, rich, poor, that's going to happen. So I
Yeah.
just think, if you know the people that you're dealing with, and I think
Yeah.
most of us, we're human. We respond well to just the honesty. Like, how they say it just rings true. Like, oh wow, I bet she really didn't mean that. I bet
Hmm.
that was really just an oversight. So I say just talk about it, have fun, be light. I hate that people nowadays feel so afraid to even speak or to say anything. And I
Yes.
just don't think we should have to operate in that way at all. And then on the other hand, if someone says something to me, I don't know if I'll actually address it because, like you said, I just don't know if I want to broach the conversation. But if it's someone who I'm building a relationship with, someone who I really care about,
Hmm.
then I am going to take that time to like pull them to the side, like, hey, you may not have known, but this is what
Yeah.
that felt like to me. At the same time, I think as Black people, we sometimes feel like um, we don't want to always throw in the race card. Like maybe it wasn't even a racial thing. So we don't
Hmm.
always want to bring that up in that way. So sometimes we may also shy away from that conversation of like, okay, I don't want to be the one who's like, it was race, so
Yeah.
we're sensitive to that as well. So on both sides, I think the more that we get to know each other as people and just relate as people and
Hmm.
talk as people, have conversations, build relationship, I think
I
that
think
that
that's totally
always
true.
helps out.
Totally true. Well, I want to talk about one more thing because this was something interesting that happened that I really had never thought about, but now that it's been brought to my attention, I'm like, "Oh." So I those people who watch this show regularly know that I am director of marketing for a trade show. And a very nice lady, a Black woman, contacted me after the show last year and she said, "Hey, I like the show. I love the show. I was really excited to be there, but I was one of the few Black people at the show. You didn't have any Black instructors, you didn't have any Black vendors, and it felt a little isolated, I guess is the word." And my response was, I think what most people who have good intentions would say, which was, well, we don't, we're not keeping anybody out. Anybody that wants to come can come. And she very gently educated me and said, yes, but you have to reach out. You can't
Yeah,
just say we're open to everybody, because if we don't, if I'm a Black person or an Asian person or, a disabled person or whatever it is, and I don't see anybody who looks like I do, then I'm going to think maybe this isn't a welcoming environment for me. So I wanted to talk about how do you address that, I guess? Can you even address that? Because honestly, it was my knee jerk reaction was, well, we're not keeping people out,
right, right,
you
right,
know?
right. I would have to give her kudos for
Yes.
feeling comfortable enough to bring that to your attention.
Yes.
I don't necessarily know if that's something I would have done just because I don't know. I just, I don't know well enough to feel like, okay, I'm going to give her a call. But overall, I would just have to agree with that sentiment that, seeing that representation makes you feel like, okay, that's an option for me. Okay, I would be really welcomed
Mhm.
at this place. And I do think that, like you said, it's probably not intentional, but that extra level of reaching out, that extra level of platform, that extra level of
Mhm.
that is definitely something that will help, that will go a really, really long way. I will say,
Mhm.
yes, definitely.
Well, and
And
I
I think
mean,
one.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, I was just gonna
Well, I'm
say,
just
I
going to
think
say,
one.
I want to say two things about what she did. Number one, she came on the show and she was amazing and she
Okay.
educated me in so many ways.
Yeah.
But the other thing that happened is I was more mindful when I was recruiting vendors and instructors this year. And I did purposely try to reach out and find some resources that maybe I wouldn't have looked for otherwise.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I honestly feel sometimes that if you're a white person and you feel like you're educated and you're not, you're not bigoted or whatever, and you're not racist, you honestly will think, well, I'm not cutting anybody out, and assume that's enough, and
Yeah.
it's sometimes not.
And you know what? For me, what I do when I recognize like that I need to kind of broaden my circle
Yeah.
is reach out. I keep
Mhm.
lists of everything. I keep people I want to meet in
Mhm.
Instagram and social media. I mean, but I just kind of curate. I literally curate
I like
what
that.
I want to see, what I want to know, who
Mhm.
I want to know. Like I literally just curate those things. But then also, there's two things that strike me about that I've heard, and again, it kind of points back to the fact that we don't always want to be kind of like ringing the bell, like, hey, there's
Sure.
no black people there. But what I heard Steve Harvey mention one time, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Mhm.
Basically, and then there was a woman, her name is Bonnie. She she's awesome. She is a white woman. I love her to pieces. She's so thoughtful. She's so forward thinking, and she was having this conversation that we're having probably about 5 or 10 years ago. And
Mhm.
she literally, in her contract, when she would go to speak at events, she would make sure that the event was inclusive, that the event had representation, that the event included other genders, other sexual orientations, and if it
Mhm.
didn't, other people who have other sexual orientation. If it didn't, she would not speak at this event. She's a well-known woman. I just can't think of her name in the creative space, but she is
Mhm.
incredible, and she was a white woman. And that leads me back to what I was going to say about Steve Harvey, is that Steve Harvey mentioned that, sometimes we can't always have the conversation. Sometimes there needs to
Mhm.
be a, a white person who stands beside us, who's like, okay, I'm going to be the voice for this. I'm going to
Sure.
bring this to my organization, because there may only be, one or two other black people in an organization where we just don't
Mhm.
feel like we have the voice to always lead the charge and push things forward. So sometimes it's got to come from our brothers and sisters from another mother who
Mhm.
kind of feel the need and take the charge with us, who are willing to kind of spearhead things instead of it always being us. And it actually lands differently, especially for people in a powerful position who are able
Mhm.
to kind of demand, like, hey, this is just what I want to see if I'm going to be a part of this event, this organization, this thing. So just a different perspective of, like,
I
yeah, we
like
can
it.
do it, but sometimes it's better even coming from someone else and not necessarily us all the time.
Well, and I think it's the same thing with a lot of women on film sets now that have a certain amount of power or clout, star clout, or whatever it is, are putting in their contracts that there has to be a certain percentage of women that are working on the sets, and they have to be more than just the people bringing the coffee,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
all that kind of stuff. That's and I think that's also another thing, maybe, that if you're a white person, you don't always realize.
Yeah,
You just assume if you're if you're thinking inclusive, then you've done enough,
yeah,
and sometimes I think we need to have the discussion about, okay, how do you actually put your views into action?
got it.
Because I can sit here all day and say I'm not racist, I love everybody, I'll work with everybody, but if I'm not actually taking action to make that happen,
Definitely.
so
Yeah.
I don't know, it's an interesting thing, and I will freely admit that I'm still learning about all this and trying to parse out how it works, but I love having conversations like this, because the other thing is I don't think we talk about this stuff enough.
Yeah, I would agree. I would most certainly agree. And funny, I also am learning as well, and still learning,
Mhm.
even as a black person in this space, and just what is normal, what is like not normal, what am I used to that I shouldn't be used to,
Mhm.
what should I get ruffled about, and what shouldn't I.
Right.
But it's also a learning process for us as well. So I just think that I'm grateful that so much has happened, that we are having these conversations, that they're not as weird as they used to be, that I definitely see things changing, and for that I'm gonna
Mhm.
always be happy.
Oh yeah, I think the kids coming up now are
Yeah,
getting a different education and a different perspective than, like, I went to school in the 70s and I graduated in 87 from high school. So, which tells you how old I am pretty much, but not that
yeah,
that's a
I
secret.
graduated this.
Um, but I mean, when I contrast what I learned versus what kids are being taught now, it's very different. So, I think
It
that's
is very
progress.
different, and I think the kids today are so much more tolerant, and
Yes.
in
Yes. Definitely.
intolerance. It's I love it so much, and they even teach me, like we keep saying, that it's a constant education. I've learned so much from my nieces, my nephews. That,
Mhm.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, there are things that we would have to think about that they don't think about. So I think that's amazing. So I don't I mean, there's a million more questions that we could have on this topic, but there are other topics I want to talk about. But before I do that, I just want to put up one more time. Really, really good podcast. And I love Promo Kitchen podcasts in general, but this is a really, really good one. So if you want to catch up on all the thoughts, do it there. But the next thing I want to talk about, and I have a link, I have links for everything. You did a guide for ASI Central for social media. And I want to talk about this a little bit because this is something I also work in or on or lecture about or whatever. So, one of the things that you said that I really loved, and more people who talk on this topic should say this. You said, do your research. And I want to talk about that. Why are you telling people to do their research? What should they be researching?
That is a great question, and it is one of my like I love marketing. I
Mm-hmm.
love marketing. Okay, so I get and I truthfully I haven't brushed up on that article. It's been a minute, but
Mm-hmm.
as far as your research, I know I would say for 100% fact that we have gained in our business so many clients from us just being thoughtful, just paying
Mm-hmm.
attention, just listening. Um, Going to so as I mentioned, we're product experts, and we help brands to create products that are an extension of their brand. So we
Right.
have gone and give gifts to potential clients, and when I tell you that some of these small gestures that literally cost us $20 or
Mm-hmm.
nothing substantial, have gained us clients that we could have only dreamed of. So for example, we have one client and she absolutely loves wine. She had just gotten
Mm-hmm.
married, and so of course there wasn't much research we had to do, but just a little bit of digging instead of just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I want to sell products to you. Rather than that, how about I show you what we can do? How about I listen to what you have going on in your life right at this minute? There's some people going to pass me, so you might hear something in the background.
Okay.
But why not, just be a lot more thoughtful and really present you client would that client to, or potential client into, and we've done that over and over again, and it has been extremely received on every front. Like, oh my gosh, how did you know this? Or oh my gosh, Sally, just those responses alone, you cannot pay for that. You can't.
Right.
That is the type of marketing that we use in our business. So yes, we could send out postcards and just kind of like, hey, blanket postcard. But when we send something really thoughtful, it cuts through everything, and immediately the
Mm-hmm.
client or the potential client turns into a client or has done so in the past so often. Just a little research, just a tons, not days, of research. Now, sometimes potential, for instance, project now, really nice box with full of things. I've literally been working.
Whoops. We're
I would
losing
say,
the.
I
Oh,
don't
there
know
we
if you
go.
can hear me because the brain circling.
Yeah,
Um,
we're
I'm not sure
breaking
if
up a
you can
little
hear me.
bit
I
here.
hope
I'm not
the
sure what happened.
the signal is still strong enough for this call. Christine.
Yeah, I can see you, but I can't really hear you, so I don't know if we lost it. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Now
Um,
you're back.
okay, sorry about that.
Well, I think
So
my
there,
guess is if people got out of a conference or something, there are more people on the wireless maybe.
that makes sense.
So,
Yes, and you walking around. Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Let me know if
Yeah.
we're still good to go or if we need to try something
I
else.
think we're good. We're good right now. Let's keep trying it, and if we
Okay.
punk out again, we'll do what we have to do. Um,
Okay. Sounds
okay,
good.
so we talked about research, which I'm glad we talked about because that's one of my pet peeves. But I want to talk about just from a marketing perspective, one of the biggest mistakes I think people make, which is not specifying their market, saying their market is
Hmm.
everybody. you know?
Yes, I'm sorry. Someone just walked past that I know, actually, my bonus mom. Okay, yes. So, oh my goodness. I love that one. I absolutely love that. I okay, so have you visited our Instagram page? Do you feel like we have narrowed our market?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think I found your personal Instagram page, but I'm not sure that I saw the company's one.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
get a sense from just, like I said, the things that I've seen that you've done, that you have a pretty good handle on who you're trying to talk to and what you're trying to do. So,
Yes.
oops, don't.
So that's me. Okay. So yes, we do have a
Oh, we might be losing it again. Hmm.
um
Yep, I'm not sure what's happening here. Ah,
hear me?
the joys of the internet. Yep, I think we might be frozen. Oh, yep, I think maybe. All right, I'm going to pop her out for a minute and then we'll try popping her back in and see if that helps. Oh, now I think she's gone entirely. Well, oh, yep, she's gone entirely. So we'll see if she comes back. In the meantime, we can have a little discussion about marketing on our own, I guess, and we can talk about why I think that marketing is so important, and especially specifying your target market. If you've ever heard anything I've ever done on marketing, you will know that um, I am a vehement opponent of the idea that your target market is everyone. I don't believe that's true. I never have believed that's true. I never will believe that's true. It's just not what is accurate. And the reason why I say that's not accurate is because it's, first of all, it's lazy. It's, I don't want to do the research. I don't want to figure it out. I don't want to take the time to think about who I can sell things to and how I can sell things to them. So I'm just going to say my target market is everyone. And then I don't have to think about marketing, and I don't have to make a plan, and I don't have to come up with targeted marketing campaigns, and I don't have to do anything that's going to, oh, maybe she's back. Let's see. Oh, are you back? Maybe. Maybe not. We're trying. Oh, looks like maybe not. Oh, looks like maybe. I don't know. Oh, the joys of the internet, guys. Isn't this fun? I love it. I don't know. Where are we at? Oh, I think she might be gone again.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I'm so okay.
Oh, well, I can hear
I don't know
audio.
either if it's going to work.
Ah, there you are. Maybe.
So I can see
Yeah, we can hear you a little. And the picture
I
seems to be
can see
frozen, so I'm
you.
not. I can see you
Awesome.
too, but the audio is cutting out. Oh, there you go. Maybe. Ah,
I'm
oh, there we
sorry.
go. Oh, it's
We
fine.
may be
Oh, now we lost it. Oh dear. Well, this is the adventures in the internet, guys. It happens and you do what you can do, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And apparently this time it's not. So, I apologize for that. We'll wait and see if Quianne can get things stabilized and get back here. And in the meantime, I'll just keep talking to you about target marketing, because I think it's a really important topic, and it's also something that Quianne can speak to if she comes back, and that will be helpful. So The reason why I say your target market isn't everybody is because you can't effectively really market to everybody. Even the biggest companies out there who theoretically could have an everybody target market can't necessarily sustain that. They need to market to segments because your message has to be targeted to whoever you want to sell to. That's the whole point of this. So if you're selling sneakers, for instance, if you're Nike, you're not just selling generic sneakers to a generic audience. You're selling running shoes to people who run. You're selling basketball shoes to people who play basketball. You're selling cleats, theoretically, to people who need cleats for whatever they play. Baseball, maybe? I don't know. I'm not a sports fan. So even though you're huge and potentially have a market that numbers in the millions or billions, you're not marketing to everyone with the same message. That's not how it works. So the gist of what I'm trying to say here is that if you're saying your market is everyone, you're shortchanging yourself and you're shortchanging your market, honestly. You need to be aware of what's happening. You need to be aware of who you're trying to talk to, and you need to tailor a message for that specific market. So that's a pet peeve of mine. And if you come to Applique Getaway, one of the classes that I'm teaching there is building a marketing plan. And one of the things, trust me, that we will be talking about is that your target market cannot be everyone. So since we're having this conversation now, let's talk about how you figure out what your target market and who is in your target market. And this is not complicated. A lot of people try to make this really complicated, and it's not. It's pretty easy. And the thing that's easy about it is you are producing a product or service. There are certain people who are going to want those product or products or service or services. That's how it works. So if that's the case, then you need to figure out who those people are. If you are selling, for instance, ice cream, you're not going to market to lactose intolerant people. And that seems self-explanatory, but people don't think about it to that level. So they don't really sit down and say, who's the potential market for my product or service? And then where are those people, which is the other question you need to ask. And what happens is if people there's a question. If people take the time to actually figure out the first part of that equation and they figure out, okay, this is who I want to sell to, then they don't necessarily take time to figure out the second part of the equation, which is, okay, this is where these people are. And the reason why knowing where those people are is important is because if you don't know, then you can't be where they are if you don't give it some thought. And being where those people are, especially on social media or online, is very important, because if you're sending a message to the right target market, but you're sending it in the wrong venue, you're not going to be effective. So don't, for heaven's sakes, do that, because it's not worth it. Trust me, not worth it at all. So that's another marketing issue that I think people get wrong a lot. And it's something that I think you need to be aware of and you need to take the time to figure out. It's not a hard thing to figure out, but it's something that a lot of people don't take the time to figure out. And honestly, my biggest pet peeve about marketing, as long as I'm just having this discussion here, is that people think that marketing is on the bottom of the list of things they need to do. And trust me, I understand. I run a business myself, and I have a lot of irons in a lot of pots, and I probably don't market myself and what I can do as well as I should. I'll put my hand up and say that. But a lot of people, because they don't know marketing and they don't understand marketing necessarily, put it on the bottom of the pile. It's like, well, but a lot of the things that they say they need to do could be benefited by actually doing marketing. So it's like this round robin of weird things that happen, which is, people say, I need to get more clients. I need to sell more product. I need to get my name out there more. I need to do all this stuff. But they put marketing at the bottom of the list, and marketing is the thing that could help them do all the things they say that they need to do. So when someone tells me, oh, I don't have time for marketing, or I don't have the money to market, or I don't know how to market, it's like, well, okay, let's take those individually. If you don't have the time to market, then you probably don't have the time to have a business, honestly. Unless, and there are those rare exceptions out there, and I will own up to this. There are people who have never done any marketing and have a huge thriving business. And you'll always hear that one story from some company that everything is word of mouth and they've never spent a dime on advertising and they are doing gangbusters. So yeah, that does happen, but it's the exception, not the rule. So don't assume that your company is going to be like that. Assume that you're going to need to do marketing and you're going to need to spend money on it and you're going to need to spend time on it. And if you do, then you will find that your clients are coming to you more easily, that your sales are up, that people do know who you are and they care who you are and they want to do business with you. So marketing should really be at the top of the list. And another thing that is kind of a misconception or an error that people make is when the economy is having difficulties, as it is right now, when inflation is rising, when consumers are cutting back on spending, whatever it is, people will cut back on marketing instead of trying to spend a little more, because they assume that, well, money is a little tight, customers are maybe going to be a little more bulky about coming in and doing sales, ordering products, whatever it is. So therefore, I'm going to cut back on my marketing because that's a budget that I can apply the dollars to other places. What studies have shown and what history has shown is in tough economic times, the companies that prosper the most are the companies that step up their marketing. And it sounds paradoxical, I know, but if you are a company that is marketing in a tough economic time, you're doing something most of your competitors aren't. And people who do have money and do want to buy will come to you because yours is the only marketing they're seeing. And when the economy turns around, which it always does, then the people who now have money to spend and are ready to buy will also come to you because yours was the only message they were seeing when times were tough. And it's a weird thing, but it's like people self-select when the economy is in a little bit of an issue and they don't market, so therefore nobody sees them. So you have a clearer field than you do when everything's great and everyone's putting out their marketing messages. So this is something that I like to talk about because I think it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the businesses that do step up and do the marketing and spend the money and take the chance. And it's also an opportunity to amplify whatever marketing dollars you do spend, because you're not going to have as much competition for the eyes and ears of your potential customers. Totally makes sense when you think about it. But most people don't think about it. They just think, well, sales are down a little bit. Well, the economy is kind of iffy right now and consumer confidence isn't great. So I'm just going to cut back. And I'm especially going to cut back on marketing because marketing is, a lot of people consider marketing to be kind of an optional sort of thing. I don't think that's true, but for the purposes of this discussion, we'll say some people assume it is that way. So that ends up being an issue. So don't do that. If you're looking at the economy right now and you're thinking, I'm going to cut back on my marketing because it's just not good, then, you should really step up your marketing and you should really invest more in it because the benefits will be doubled or tripled or whatever it is. And you'll be further ahead when the economy picks up and consumer confidence is up and people are again spending more money. So there's a lot of marketing myths, really, that I think are issues that we really need to address. And the cutback when the economy is bad is one. Everyone is your target market is one. Marketing is hard is one that I think we need to address. Marketing is not necessarily hard. There is an art to it. There are things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do. But marketing is hard, and marketing doesn't have to be a huge glitzy glossy ad campaign or a big advertisement on television or whatever. Marketing can be postcards. Marketing can be, though I don't recommend or like this option, marketing can be flyers on car windows. Marketing can be asking your customers to give you a referral or to make sure that they mention you on social media and post the thing they got from you and how much they like it, or the service that you did for them and how great it was and how helpful. So marketing doesn't have to be hard, and marketing doesn't have to be very time consuming, but it does have to be done. I think that's the thing that people don't acknowledge. You can't get gains from marketing if you're not doing any marketing. And that sounds like, well, no, no kidding, really. But it's actually true. If you aren't doing any marketing, you can't get any of the benefits of marketing. And that's part of what we'll talk about when we talk about marketing at Act Like a Getaway is you can't get benefits if you're not doing it. And, if you're not doing it and then you're saying marketing doesn't work, then you have no leg to stand on. So don't do that. And another thing that I want to talk about that's marketing and social media related is that a lot of people tell me, and this just drives me nuts and makes my blood boil, that social media doesn't work. That, they tried social media and they got nothing out of it and there was no benefit and they don't know why anybody uses it, or they'll target a specific platform. Instagram is no good. TikTok is no good. Facebook is worthless. Twitter is whatever, and you ask them when they tell you this, well, what did you do? Well, I put up 3 posts over a 2-month period and, I never replied to anybody and I never engaged with anybody and I never got any response. Or they'll say, well, I had a Twitter account and I posted a bunch of stuff and none of my customers replied and I never got any sales. And then you ask, okay, so your customers are on Twitter. And the response is, well, I don't know. Twitter was just whatever the current expert of the day said I should be on. So I set up an account. And here's the thing about social media. Social media can be an amazing marketing and sales tool. And I'm going to talk in about that at AG too. And yes, I am plugging AG because what the heck, we're a month out from the show and I'm the director of marketing and outreach. So shocker, I'm going to promo some classes I'm teaching at AG. But I'm teaching social media that sells at AG. And one of the things that we will talk about is there is a right way, that's harder to say than you would think, and a wrong way to sell on social media. And the wrong way is the way that most people do it, which is you put up one picture and the message is totally, here's the price, here's the URL, buy my stuff. And it's the same picture and the same message over and over and over again. And then you wonder why you don't get any response. And I'll tell you why you don't get any response, because it's the same flippin' message over and over and over again. And I'll give you an example of, and this kills me. So there's this financing company that somehow I'm assuming got my name because my email is the one that's most prominently featured on the Applique Getaway website. And this person from this finance company has been emailing me 3 and 4 and 5 spam emails a day for probably 6 months now. There's like 3 variations of the message. and it's the same message every time, and they always end up in my spam email box, and I just delete them. But I mean, this is consistent. Here's the question I have about this. If this was a viable technique, don't you think the first email would get a response, or at least like the second or third? I mean, we're literally talking hundreds of emails this company has sent me. And granted, I know you can set up the email templates, you can automate it all. So it's just, sending it over and over again. But here's the question I have about this. After about the 100th time you sent me a variation of the same message and I didn't respond, wouldn't you go, gee, maybe she's not interested? Wouldn't you? I mean, instead of continuing to, is there like, you think that volume is going to make me decide that this is something I want to do? Because I got to say, no, it's not going to. It really isn't going to. And it's really a kind of stupid technique, I guess. I couldn't even really think of the word that I wanted to say, and stupid is the one that comes to mind. It's a stupid technique because it's just annoying. Or now it's really kind of funny. I just look at the messages and I go, really? Really? I mean, that the only one that I think is stupider than that is the one where someone sends you a spam email and then follows up with another spam email a couple days later that says, if you don't reply, I'm never sending you an email again. And it's like, I didn't want you to send me an email, so I'm really not too upset if you never send me another email. That would be fine. So there are techniques that, and yes, I know spammers are, spam is a whole separate thing, and it's obviously not great marketing techniques, but it's just the logic behind why they do what they do. I don't understand how they think it's going to work. That, and on the 457th message, I'm going to go, dang, I need financing, and I'm going to, go with this company that's been spamming me for 6 months. How would that even make sense? In what universe would a sane person do that? I don't know. And I don't know. It's just one of those things where if you look at the logic behind what's happening, you just think, this makes no sense. This has no actual value. And that's the thing about marketing that I think you always need to consider. What's the potential outcome and what is the potential value of what you're doing? And if you do that and you really think critically and seriously about it, then you're going to end up with a marketing plan that's going to work for you. Now, obviously, I would assume that nobody that watches the show or anybody that would be in my classes or anybody that I deal with is a spammer. I hope that's true. But if you want to learn marketing, if you want to learn about social media, if you want to learn about e-commerce, if you want to learn about bartering and the art of the deal and all that kind of stuff, you can come and see me at Applique Getaway and take my classes. I would love to see you all in my classes. I'm actually doing a promo for myself right now because I would really love to see all of you in my classes. And I think they're going to be good classes. And I want to have these kind of discussions. And I mean, this is the website for Applique Getaway. I am director of marketing and outreach for that show. Full disclosure, probably most of you watching the show already know that. I will tell you, we have an amazing slate of classes this year. There is so much education available from so many qualified people. I did serious searches and I looked through what everybody has offered if I didn't know them personally, to make sure that we were getting the best teachers we could get, because that is something that anybody who has been on the internet for longer than 5 seconds knows, that anybody can put themselves up as an expert. And so you need to be careful who you're trusting and who is teaching you how to do things, because there are people out there who are passing bad information. This is not exactly news, but it's something that it's incumbent on all of us to be aware of who's teaching us and what their credentials are and what their experience is and all of that. So that's something to please be aware of, please be careful about, and make sure that if you're taking a class, if you're going to a trade show, if you're watching a webinar or you're taking a class online or whatever you're doing, that you've checked out the instructor's credentials ahead of time. And you know that this is a person who is reputable. This is a person who's going to give you good information. This is someone who's been doing whatever they're lecturing about long enough to make sure that they understand and they can accurately teach you what you have to do. And I'm not really sure. Letty says, there you go, best of the best. I'm not sure exactly what she's talking about, but I will go with it. And Jeff and Adam were here. And I didn't say hello in the beginning because I wanted to get as much of Quianne in as I could, because I was a little bit afraid that maybe the internet connection would go south the way that it did. But here's the thing. This is what happens when you do live shows. Sometimes the internet poops out on you. Sometimes StreamYard is just a bear and won't do what you want it to do. Sometimes things go wrong. That's what happens. So you have to be ready to kind of roll with it. And, I will be the first to say I'm not always the greatest planner in the world, but I always try to be able to have some sort of backup plan for these shows just in case something happens, so I can carry on and speak eloquently or reasonably eloquently about a topic that will hopefully be helpful and make sense to everybody who's watching. That's how this works. If you're going to host one of these things, if you're going to do any kind of instruction online, anything of this type, you're going to run into these problems and you have to be prepared. Anybody who watched Two Regular Guys last week, they had a guest who had a similar problem to what Quianne had today, tried to get on for most of the show and couldn't. And so they just had to do host chat the whole time, basically. And at least there were two of them, so that was a little more helpful. There's just me, so I'm just, spinning it out today. But that's something you have to be aware of. And I think anybody who's done this sort of thing regularly, has had an instance where a guest dropped out in the middle of the show, or the show wouldn't run right, or it wouldn't stream properly to one of the destinations or whatever it was. It's just how it goes. And we deal with it. And hopefully I will be able to get Quianne back on another date, and we can try this again when she has a little more stable internet connection, and we can have the full discussion that I was hoping we'd get to have this time. This is what happens. And really, I think I'm just looking at I'm going to do a little Applique Getaway promo here just because I have a couple minutes, and then I'll say goodbye. AppliqueGetaway.com. If you have not registered for the show, the VIP and VIP Pro packages are getting very close to selling out. You should definitely do that. If you don't know about Applique Getaway, or you're not familiar with Applique Getaway, you can join our On My Way to Applique Getaway Facebook group. You can look at the Applique Getaway. Wow, that's harder to say than you would think. Applique Getaway Facebook page. You can go to the website and find any of our amazing instructors or vendors and ask them about the show. There will be some attendee package giveaways happening with some of the vendors I know. There's lots of fun stuff. There's potentially some more lives happening. It's going to be very exciting. I'm very excited about the show this year. I hope everybody can come. And I have now done my marketing director duty for the day. We're almost at 55 minutes. And honestly, I don't have a lot more to talk about. So I'm going to say thank you. Thank you to Quianne. I'm sorry that the internet dropped. That's a bummer. I'm hoping I can get her back on again, and we can have the remainder of the conversation that we were trying to have this time. Like I said, if you're not signed up for Applique Getaway, please go and register and do that. And please come join me next week. My guest will be Christina and Hope from Love That Cotton. They are best friends and longtime friends who are now running a business together. I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation on women working with women and partnerships and all that kind of stuff. So I hope you will all join me next Wednesday and we will have that discussion. Thank you, everybody who's hung in with me today through all the issues that we had and the internet problems. And I appreciate you all. I appreciate you who show up every week. And it means a lot to me. You have no idea. And I will see you all next Wednesday. And I'm going to hit end broadcast now.